Steganalysis and Stegosaurus with Edward Miro.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I really appreciate that. Give me just a second to get my talk set up here. Okay. So I just want to start off by thanking Leslie and the entire PancakesCon 2 team. Thank you very much to the audience who's here. And thank you to Angela, who will be my moderator for this talk. If you have any questions, I've designed this to be very casual, so please let the chat know, and Angela will chime in occasionally when there are any questions. So, the impetus to this talk comes from this thought that I had, and that's God creates dinosaurs, God destroys dinosaurs, God creates man, man destroys God, man creates steganography, steganography eats man, woman inherits the earth. It's a tale as old as time. Okay, so welcome to Pancakes Park. I will be your remote support technician, Edward Miro. In the vehicle with you is the tour leader slash moderator, Angela, who will help direct questions to me. Um, yeah, Pancakes Park is a great place. What are we going to talk about today? Well, first thing we'll do is I'll do an introduction to about myself. We will discuss what steganography is. I will give you some examples of how my basic workflow goes as far as how I look at steganography challenges. And we will also be taking a look at some Stegosaurus information, of course. So we will have a Stegosaurus encounter provided on the tour. And then, obviously, after tour, pancakes. So, yeah. And if you've ever been to Pancakes Park before, you'll know that is one big pile of pancakes. Okay, so who am I? Well, my name is Edward Miro. I'm also known as Cypher on Twitter and other various platforms. I am an associate faculty member for Butte College and Lake Tahoe Community College, both here in Northern California. I teach cybersecurity classes such as Security Plus, Pen Test Plus. I'm one of the many teachers now during the lockdown who streams their content to Twitch and YouTube. So if you're a student and you need to take your Security Plus or your Pen Test Plus and you want to check out some free lectures, check me out on Twitch and YouTube. If you look up Miro Labs, Mirolabs, you should be able to find me. I have spoken at DEF CON 27 in the SE Village. I spoke at Hope 2020. I was recently published in 2600 magazine. Most of my content up until now has been mostly social engineering related, but I'm starting to branch out into some other creative and interesting aspects of cybersecurity, so look forward to that content. I also created one of my first projects during the lockdown, which was called OSEEK, which is the Open Source Social Engineering Education course. That project was just me walking through 3 books. It's kind of like a really highly structured book club. Books like How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, Code of Trust by Robin Dreeke, and at the time, The Science of Human Hacking by Christopher Hadnagy, which has been updated to the Human Hacking book. So may have to change OSEEK. I also have my own independent consultancy website, mirolabs.info. I don't market myself. I'm terrible at business, but I do offer training and consultation. So check that out. And most recently, I've been working with Black Hills Information Security. I am the author or the architect of the Backdoors and Breaches mod for Tabletop Simulator. So I'm working with them to develop that. So if you have Tabletop Simulator and you want to play Backdoors and Breaches, it's totally available for free on the workshop. So I recommend you definitely check that out. So just kick back and relax in your vehicle. If you have any questions, direct those to your in-vehicle guide, Angela, who's with us. And we'll go ahead and head into Pancakes Park. Hold on to your butts. Okay, so I've went ahead and started the tour program, so everything will be managed remotely here from the control room. We've spared no expense, no problems whatsoever. You're going to have a great time. Let's talk about steganography. What is steganography? This is one of those things that you can learn about on multiple levels, right? If you've done any capture the flag competitions, it's likely that you have come across a steganography challenge. But I just want you to know that cryptography as a field and steganography as like a domain of cryptography, you could spend your whole career focused on just that. So this is just a primer on the subject of steganography. It's really geared towards a student level doing CTFs and crypto challenges. So not super high level technical stuff here, which is definitely possible. We're just going to touch the tip of the iceberg. So of course, I went ahead and accessed the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, aka Wikipedia. So, Wikipedia defines steganography in this way: it's the practice of concealing a file, message, image, or video within another file. So, steganography is used to hide secrets in plain sight. It's a way to send messages without anyone detecting that a message has even been sent. And this uh, principle, I'll call it that because there are many ways to apply steganography as a tool. It goes back thousands of years, and one of the first examples of it was the Romans would shave the head of a messenger, tattoo a message on the head of the messenger, and then send that messenger to somewhere else, right? And the premise there that by the time the messenger gets there or maybe gets captured by the enemy, the hair has regrown on top of the head, hiding the message right there in plain sight. Another way that you may have experienced steganography and not realize it is through the use of invisible ink. So the message is right there in plain sight, it's just hidden within another message. Some other analog examples of steganography would be knots tied into ropes, messages hidden under stamps on envelopes. Mixed typeface is a common way. Using a grill cipher. A grill cipher is, I want you to imagine a movie scene where someone's looking at a letter and then they have a piece of cardboard with a bunch of holes cut out on it. And I should have provided a visual for this, and I apologize. But imagine they overlay the piece of cardboard on top of the letter, and it only reveals certain letters or words. That's a grill cipher. So that's a way to implement steganography. Um, Also, this is an interesting way that it's been done, and there is some historical precedent for in the intelligence world sending messages via newspaper classifieds. And there was actually an episode of The Modern Rogue recently where they showed how this works. So, operatives or spies or secret agents will pay for our newspaper classifieds to be published. That way, you can send a message to someone without having any direct contact with them. As far as the digital world is concerned, now we're talking about how to make noise in a file work for us. So we can store information in the slack space of files, or as far as the way images work, we can kind of sprinkle things throughout the file, which does degrade the quality of the host file or the cover file, but usually to such a degree that it's so small that nobody could really detect it just by looking at it. It's possible to do this with sound files also. There are some really cool capture the flag competitions that you have to look at the spectrogram of a MP3 file, and you could see things written using frequencies. It's really cool. Another way that's common is to comment out text, right? Like if you've ever looked at a web app hacking challenge, first thing you do is look at the source code and look for things that have been commented out. That's a way to hide a message in plain sight, or even just using different colored text. So sometimes you may get a challenge where it's just a blank document. Hit Control A and see if there is any white text that's being obfuscated, right? Fractionalized comments. We know that when certain malware payloads are sent or data is being exfilled, that chunking the file into pieces is a common way to hide something. So the same thing can be done with steganography. I mentioned the audio signals and the spectro. Hidden control characters, non-printing Unicode characters. There are dozens and dozens of ways to implement this principle, right? So the possibilities are almost endless. It's I've heard from different articles that I've read and from different people that work in intelligence that I know that terrorists and spies in the world right now use steganography, and they embed messages and images, and they post those on image sharing sites. And if you think about it, there are hundreds of image sharing sites like Imgur and those kind of places, and millions and billions of images are being stored every day. There just really isn't a practical way to screen for steganography, so it's a great way for those people to send messages. Before we move on, I just think it's important to get into the philosophy of steganography. You know, the cryptographers were so preoccupied with whether they could, they didn't stop to think if they should. Okay. So now I'm going to switch to a workflow demo. I have a few sample files. Hopefully this works. Okay, let me check OBS here. Cool. So now you're looking at my Parrot OS system here. I have my notes file. I have my samples here. And then I have a terminal. So hopefully you'll be able to follow along. If you want these sample files, just hit me up in Slack or on Twitter afterwards. This workflow comes from a white paper that I wrote back in 2018 before I had done anything in the world of cybersecurity. One of the first things I published was looking at Steganalysis, and I explored a potential workflow, and I consulted some other people who were a little bit better at Steganalysis than I am. I don't claim to be a professional. I'm just a guy who likes crypto challenges and alternate reality puzzles. So this is my basic workflow. Like I said, this is meant for people who are doing capture the flag competitions, cyber competitions, mostly student level. This is not high level Steganalysis. But if you look here at my list, this is my basic workflow. First step, just actually look at the image, see if there's anything obvious about it. Sometimes these challenges will have text that's just pasted onto the image, just really small or hidden in a place that you wouldn't notice at a first glance. Sometimes the image itself will have clues about what algorithm was being used or what tool was used to embed the message. The second thing I like to do is take a look at strings. And strings here, I'm going to go to my terminal here. I'm going to type what is strings. If you don't know about what is, it's a great little way to get a one-liner about tools in Linux. So strings prints the sequence of printable characters in a file. So that's really nice for us to do. The second thing that I like to do is use the exif tool. Exif tool reads and writes metadata. There are some really great websites that show metadata that you can use also, and I'll show an example of how that works. The next thing I like to run is binwalk. So this is a tool that searches binary images for embedded files. Really convenient. It's a great go-to. I'm going to show how all these work. If that doesn't work, then I will go to, I don't know if there's a what is for StegSolve. No. So StegSolve is a tool that allows you to flip through different layers of the image, and I'll show that also. And then the sixth one is the Digital Invisible Ink Toolkit. That's a really common tool that's used by a lot of CTFs, and I have examples of that. And then if those 6 things, my first go-tos, don't work, And then I'll jump over to other tools. I'll take a look at StegHide, or I'll look for Stego tools online, or I might have to consult someone who's good at coding and they can write a script that might be able to find the information that I'm looking for. So let's go ahead and clear this. And let's see what we have here. So I have 5 files that I'm going to take a look at. Let's take a look at Stego 1. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at the image. Let's see. Okay, so we have a Batman coin. Very cool. He's doing the Bat2C. All right. Now I'm going to go back over to my terminal here, and I'm just going to run strings. Strings will output a lot of information sometimes, so it's helpful to pipe that to more, and that kind of gives you a little bit of control. Now if you look here, hopefully it's visible on the screen. Okay, good. You can see that there was a string that was found right at the top in the EXIF data. Miro Labs, you did it, GG. So pretty easy to find stuff that's hidden in the metadata like that. I'm not going to go through any more. I can show you if I scroll through the strings, but I'm gonna go ahead and close that, and I'm gonna just show you what it looks like with the EXIF tool. And you can see here under image description, I put in this string. So that's probably your most basic kind of steganography challenge there. Let's take a look at Stego 2. So I'm going to go through the workflow for each one in the exact same way. So Stego 2. And I totally stole all these different images and different samples from all over the internet. If you want attribution, just let me know afterwards. I forgot to do that for the talk. Okay, very cool fantasy. Someone in the chat, let me know what this is a reference to, because I do not know. Let's go back over to my terminal. I'm going to run strings. Stego 2. Type that to more. Okay, we can see some alphabets there. I'm just going to flip through here. Okay, I'm not seeing anything super obvious. Doesn't mean that it's not there, but I know that it's not because I made this demo. Now we'll try the EXIF tool. Okay, let's just look through this. Nothing here that's jumping out. Like I said, there are other online EXIF tools that are a little bit better and can get a little bit deeper. This is just your basic stuff here. Okay, so now let's go on to binwalk. Okay, so I can see, and I know it's a little bit, it's like kind of wrapping around this line here, but there is a zip archive within this JPEG. So a cool thing about binwalk is it has like the built-in capabilities of extracting already known file types. So if I do -E for extract, run this. Okay. And now if I can see that there is the zip archive. If I go over to my folder here, I now have a stego2.jpg.extracted 2 items. If I go in there, now I have another image. So a layered challenge is very common. I can go through all of the same workflow for this, but I won't. So I'm going to go into this folder here, and I'm going to run binwalk again on my new image. And I can see that there is something also embedded within this file. So I'm going to do -E to extract. And we have another output. So let's go back over here, dig a little bit deeper. Now it's pulled out a text file for us. If I open that, then we have this hash, and this hash is going to be the flag that's being looked for. So pretty cool. Let me go back here. Let's go back over to my terminal. All right, let me clear this. All right, number 3. So let's start with our workflow. Okay, so this looks like the UN logo, right? We'll run strings on it. I think we're on 3 now. Oh no, I'm in the wrong folder. There we go. Okay, we could go through this. Doesn't look like we're going to find anything here. Check the EXIF tool. Nothing interesting here. Let's try bin walk. Okay, this is all normal. This is the way PNG files work. So now what we're going to do is we're going to try the next tool in our list, which is StegSolve. And it's just a Java file. So now what we do is we do open Stego3. And now what we can do is we can use these arrows here to flip through the different layers. So this is the color inversion, or the XOR. Alpha plane 7, 6, 5, 4. Oh, there we go. Alpha plane 2. If you can see here on the bottom left, flag, you can't see moi. So there we go. Boom. I love when CTFs have challenges like this because it's cool to see things stored in different layers like that. So that one's done. Great. And now we're on number 4. So let's see, what are we? How are we for time? I think we're good. Okay. Let's start with our workflow. So let's go take a look at number 4. Okay, looks like a cool beach with the people in the water there. I'm gonna run strings. Okay, this is a little bit more interesting here. So we definitely can see that something is going on. It's not in plain English, so it's not helpful to us. Let's check the EXIF tool just to keep reinforcing the workflow. Nothing here. Let's try bin walk. Okay, there's some weird header information here. We can try StegSolve, but I'm not going to do that because I know it's wrong. But now we're going to move on to the Digital Invisible Ink Toolkit. This is a little bit more exciting. Okay, so this is how this works. You can use most of these tools to also encode. We're going to switch to the Decode tab here, and we're going to pick the image to decode. So now we're on Stego 4. We're going to set a message file to write to. So if it finds something, we'll just set it to out. Whoops. Okay. Here we go. Now what we do here is we select algorithms. There are 6 here. I usually start with the first one, hit go. Error, and then it's okay, you just hit OK, and then you try the next one. And sometimes you have to go through all these until you find the right one. There are options to further complicate this, but generally for CTFs and challenges that you'll be working on, it'll just be default. Let's do blind hide. Okay, so that says success message was retrieved. So if I go over to my Stego folder, I now have an out file, and there's a flag in there, flag blind hide. So not too hard there. And then the last one is this one. Okay. So this is an example of steganography using a Stegosaurus. This one is, I want to call attention to the text here. Why the Tyrant King George, of course. Not only is that an excellent office reference, but it's a clue that leads you to the proper tool to extract the information that you need from this. There are dozens and dozens of steganography tools, all using different algorithms and different ways to hide data. It can be very difficult to solve these challenges if you're not a strong coder, especially like I am. Knowing the tool is very important. So what we can do here is, let me pull up a browser, and hopefully this doesn't kill my VM like it did earlier. And we could do all the steps in the workflow, but we're just going to skip to the end here. Now, I made this particular Stegosaurus steganography challenge for like a Twitter challenge that I did. What I wanted people to do while looking at that clue is to Google George steganography online, because there are specific online tools. Right. Let's give this a second. I've been having trouble with the browser within my Parrot VM. I have no idea why. Super slow. Okay, so if you search for George, which is the reference in the image, it finds this, which is stegonline.georgeom.net. So let's pull that up. I thought this was going to be very obvious to find, but it wasn't. So if you are the kind of person who likes to make crypto challenges or CTF challenges, be careful with that. Let me select, here we go. I'm going to upload the file. And if you notice the file name, 1R, 2G, 3B, that will be important later. All right, so it's loading the image. Okay, so now what you do with this tool is click Extract Files or Data. And now that file name, here's where that becomes important. So I'm going to select R1, G2, B3. Scroll down, click Go. Here we go. Okay, boom. Now you can see here in the results, flag, you got a golden ticket. So pretty cool. I thought so. All right, so that's it for the demo. All right, so what we'll do now to continue the tour, it looks like I still have a little bit of time left. Let's go ahead and take a look at some Stegosauruses. I can see here from the console that everything's fine. Looks like the cars are unarmed, but I'm sure that's okay. You know, life finds a way, as they say. So, Stegosaurus, from the Greek stegos, which means roof, and sauros, which means lizard. So technically these are roof lizards. I'm not sure what that means, but it's a thing. They are from the genus Herbivorous Thyreophoran dinosaur. And I do know that there is a paleontologist listening to me right now, and I apologize excruciatingly. Fossils of this genus date to the late Jurassic period. Fun fact, the tail spike has the coolest name, Thagomizer. And I know that from a Far Side comic. Stegosaurus existed between 155 to 150 million years ago. Mostly located in the western United States and Portugal. They were large, heavily built herbivorous quadrupeds with rounded backs, short forelimbs, long hind limbs, and tails held high in the air. It's actually debated, and I'll let the paleontologists weigh in on this more specifically. But the debate in the paleontology world is whether the tail, or the thagomizer, was used for offensive or defensive use, or maybe just as a cool display, like, hey, I got a cool tail. So the function of the array of plates and spikes, like I said, it's been the subject of much speculation among scientists. Um, Generally agreed that the tails were for defense, but their plates may have been for display and also could provide thermoregulatory functions. And yeah, how badass is that? Okay. Stegosaurus had a relatively low brain to body mass ratio, um, had a short neck and a small head, meaning it most likely ate low lying bushes and shrubs. Okay. How are we doing on time right now? Are we good?
You're good.
Great. Just a couple more stock images. Just wanting to get a full appreciation for the Stegosaurus in all its glory. I don't care what anyone says. This is the coolest dinosaur. Oh, okay. Something is happening here. We were gonna head back for the after tour pancakes, but something's going on. I'm sure it's just a technical issue. I wouldn't worry about it. We have a lot of clever girls working for us today. So let me go ahead and pull up one of my terminals here in the control room and see if I can fix this. Don't worry. And we can discuss sexism in survival situations when I get back. So here we go. Access security. Access security grid. No. Access main security grid. Oh. I hate this hacker crap.
What's going on, Ed?
You didn't say the magic word.
Oh man. That's okay. I'll go ahead and
Say the
reboot
magic
this
word.
machine, and we'll be just fine. Don't worry about anything there. All right. Well, if there are any questions from the chat, this would be a great time for them. When you gotta go, you gotta go. That's my talk. I really hope you enjoyed your tour today. Please, thank you for not suing us here at Pancakes Park. Thank you, Leslie, and thank you to everyone.
I think the top question was, is this hat standard attire, or is it just for today's showing?
No, this is my Pancakes Park uniform. It's our illustrious leader, Leslie. She spared no expense on uniforms, and I am required as a technician here for the park to wear this.
It's lovely. Also, any tips for anyone who has trouble using let's see, what was it? Your sixth, I don't have the list up, but your sixth tool in the list?
The digital invisible ink toolkit.
Yes.
Okay, we can take a look at it. Yeah. Sometimes, steganography, I get a lot of new students, and in the classes that I teach, I generally like to require them to either participate in the National Cyber League or some type of cyber competition, just so they can get some experience, be exposed to some different domains that they're not used to, maybe find something that they didn't know they'd be interested in. A hard subject is cryptography or codes and ciphers. We have to differentiate between like cryptography with a capital C, people with PhDs who spend their whole careers doing that, very math heavy. And then I guess what could be called cryptology, codes and ciphers. A lot of being good at this type of stuff is just getting experience. Like, we're in the middle of the preseason for National Cyber League right now, and my students are working on different cryptography challenges. And for myself, I go through and I look at them, and I know how to solve them all just by looking at them, because I have so much experience that I can recognize when particular ciphers are being used, or I can see a weird code or cipher that's very obscure. Part of that has to do with just getting experience and practicing. The same thing goes for steganography. My workflow here is by no means exhaustive, and it may not even be the best one. It's just the one that I like to follow. I try to go for all the low-hanging fruit first, and then get deeper and deeper. Generally, if it gets to this point and I can't find it, it's tough. As far as going into the options here and changing these different bits and doing LSB matching, I don't generally see that a lot in CTFs or crypto challenges. It's generally pretty basic here. There are ways to run analysis. I'm not even sure what this means. So like I said, this is a very math heavy domain. I'm just kind of a noob when it comes to it. Let's see what happens. I can run an analysis here, and if you're a math major or a real heavy coder, then this is probably meaningful to you. For myself, I generally, if I'm at this point, it's a little guessy, and I will just go through and try the different algorithms and see what it finds. So hopefully that answers the question.
Excellent. And then another question was for the for the alert at the end. Was that a program or a game, or did you create that, or how did that come about?
Let me see if I can scroll back. Do you mean this console here? This is a website that I actually that if you go look for it online, it's like the Jurassic Park console simulator, and it goes through the scene from the movie here. It's like a kind of a prank site that you can send out.
Excellent.
Yeah. Classic.
Didn't say the magic word.
All right, I know I kind of got through that a little bit faster, and I definitely apologize because I don't want to screw up the schedule. Any other questions about cybersecurity? Maybe people who are students who are wanting to get into cybersecurity. Anything like that's fine. Has anyone heard of the term Thagomizer before? Isn't that the kind of like the best name for a thing?
Yeah, I think that was a lot of people's first time hearing that.
Really?
So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I got that from. Let me see if I can. If I search for Thagomizer. Yeah, I think it was originally coined by Gary Larson, who is the artist for The Far Side. Now this end is called the Thagomizer, after the late Thag Simmons. So I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and I used to sit with my grandma and read the newspaper in the morning, and she would read the important parts and I would read the comic section, and The Far Side was always one of my huge favorites. So anything Gary Larson is classic comedy.
Consensus is if you knew that reference, you might be old.
Dude, I'm so old. Yeah. I'm in my 40s now, so I'm like ancient when it comes to IT and tech for sure.
A couple other comments were, it's a bummer when you're doing a CTF and you find images are either not steganography, or they are and you did something different. Are there any good ways to like kind of try to determine that in the first couple minutes so you don't waste a lot of time?
Yeah, I mean, like I had a student actually come across this exact problem, and the domain they were looking at for National Cyber League was the OSINT domain. So the images there are meant to provide visual clues to be able to look something up online to find an address. And they thought just because it was an image, maybe there was something deeper going on there. So that is a classic trap that happens. It's kind of like your red herring, or and a lot of people they overthink these challenges. And yeah, I would say that consider the context before you get too deep with any steganography. If it's a image provided for an OSINT challenge or for something else, or if the image itself just has a code on it or has something that's really obvious, then you probably don't need to get into the workflow. But if it's an image provided and the domain is cryptography or steganography, well, then it's pretty obvious. So just consider the context and always look for the obvious things first. Like my first thing is to always look at the image, just see exactly what's on it first, and then get deeper and deeper. But only if I know it's within an appropriate context.
Got it. And then, would you like to leave us with one of your favorite sites for steganography challenges?
Yeah, that's tough because I don't really I mean, one of my favorite sites that I like to point people to when it comes to getting into CTFs would be Pico CTF. That's a free one, and there's a Pico Gym. Um, I took most of these examples that I found just by Googling, and stake analysis is kind of a very it's kind of hard to find a lot of good information about it. It's a very like kind of spooky, mysterious domain within cryptography. So it's either really low level content like I've presented here, or it gets super high level mathematics, technical calculus really fast. So it's hard to find examples of this. Like I said, I can jump in the chat later and share the links of the different sites that I found the samples that I used here. Some of them I just made myself with the tools so I could demo the decoding of it. Yeah, it's tough. National Cyber League, for those of you who are in high school or college, I recommend you do that, and they have it every semester, so twice a year, and there's always a handful of steganography challenges. And generally speaking, my workflow that I showed will solve all of those. So, hey, if you're a student and you happen to see this talk and you're doing NCL right now, uh, you're welcome.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ed. This was amazing.
Of course.